49ers update from rainy Santa Clara, where the 49ers are currently undergoing their first practice for the Super Bowl. They're going to have another practice tomorrow. They fly out to Las Vegas, where there's also some rain in the forecast on Sunday. So exciting times indeed for the NFC champions, who have a very short injury report. But George Kittle is not out on the practice field today. Kyle Shanahan would not elaborate about his toe injury. Somebody asked him if it's a turf toe or something else, and Kyle Shanahan said it's just a toe. So we're going to have to wait to see George Kittle's status as the next week and a half before game time against the Kansas City Chiefs progress. Other two 49ers on the injury report: Ambry Thomas, the cornerback who exited the NFC Championship game with an ankle injury. He's a limited participant today at practice. And Oren Burks, who was in a collision before the NFC Championship game at practice, but ended up playing in the NFC title. He's also limited at practice with his shoulder injury. Today, the big news is that Jed York, the 49ers owner, talked. He always does. If the 49ers make the Super Bowl, comes into the media room, has a less formal media session than one up at the podium. And Jed York, first he's sending every single 49ers employee down to the interns. So every office staffer and intern, sending them to the Super Bowl. Multiple charter planes are going to be headed to the Super Bowl. This is something that the 49ers did a few years ago when they were in Super Bowl 54 against the Chiefs in Miami, and it's something that they're going to do this time. Culture matters, and culture is something that extends all the way through the building. It's not just the highest level people. You got to keep all of the people involved. And I think the 49ers have done a great job at that. This tradition of flying everybody out to the Super Bowl goes back to the Eddie DeBartolo years. Eddie DeBartolo is Jed York's uncle, and I think that Jed is trying to bring back the glory days for the 49ers. Obviously, a big step in that direction would come if they can win the Super Bowl. But as far as positive culture goes, inclusivity of everybody in the organization goes, this is a big gesture that the 49ers, I think any business person who understands culture will tell you the 49ers have gotten this one right. York talked more about how nervous his son was at the halftime of the NFC Championship game. He said that his son was on the verge of tears up in the suite. And then Jed said, and it looked like Jed got a little bit emotional when he was talking about this. He said that he just started playing catch with his son in the suite, and that settled everybody down. And obviously the 49ers came from behind, down 24-7. They got that vengeance from 1957 when the Detroit Lions came from behind 24-7 in a playoff game at Kezar Stadium against the 49ers. Just so poetic how San Francisco has been able to turn this around. You could tell that Jed York was also really eager to talk about Brock Purdy. And during training camp of 2022, when Purdy was still a rookie, when Jimmy Garoppolo was still on the roster, when Trey Lance was going to be the week one starter, Kyle Shanahan said Brock Purdy is going to be our best quarterback. You know what happened between then and when Brock Purdy took over? So Trey Lance's ankle injury, and then Jimmy Garoppolo's spurt there as the starter again, and Jimmy Garoppolo's injury. The development behind the scenes for Brock Purdy was extremely important. I don't think that he was ready-made to be the 49ers' best quarterback in week one, but by the time the late season rolled around, he was much more prepared than at the start of it. And that's something that Brock Purdy credits Jimmy Garoppolo for. Jimmy Garoppolo did a good job mentoring him throughout that year. I don't think that part of the story should be forgotten. His work with Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey helped Purdy, and Purdy helped Christian McCaffrey when that trade happened in October. I've written a ton about that. That was my big feature right from October. And now it's just so fitting and so poetic that both of those guys are MVP finalists. Anyway, for the full Jed York video, you can go ahead and check out the channel. It's 20 minutes long. It's a great interview. It will give you some insight into the 49ers operation over the course of the past few years, including some of the detail behind that McCaffrey trade. Surprising quote from Jed York about what Kyle Shanahan thought of the price for Christian McCaffrey, but obviously the 49ers ended up getting him, with the danger of the Rams getting him, the threat of the Rams getting him being one of the big points of motivation for the 49ers at that time. Today, two 49ers players spoke to the media. The first was Nick Bosa. The second was Fred Warner. So we heard from the 49ers defense today ahead of the Super Bowl. And Nick Bosa, he was asked about the Chiefs' offensive line. And obviously this one goes back to Super Bowl 54, but it's also true especially true based on what is happening this year. Bosa's quote was, "They hold a lot." And the offensive tackles of the Kansas City Chiefs really do hold a lot. Their left tackle Donovan Smith has 7 holding penalties this year, and their right tackle Jawan Taylor has 8 holding penalties this year, and he's been very penalized. 20 total penalties on Jawan Taylor. Obviously, it's a sore subject for the 49ers. Even Jed York brought it up today. Tim Kawakami from The Athletic, from my company, Tim Kawakami asked Jed, what's your memory of the Super Bowl? And in Super Bowl 54, the 2019 season Super Bowl in Miami. And Jed York said the Kansas City Chiefs getting away with a holding call on Nick Bosa on 3rd and 15. Obviously, that was a disastrous play for the 49ers that turned that game around. But the fact that Nick Bosa mentioned today that the Chiefs hold a lot, and the fact that it's technically true, you can see that the 49ers still think about that from a few years ago, and you can see that they want to make sure that the officials and the media and everybody is aware of how Kansas City plays, so that maybe they get a few more calls in their favor this time around. Nick Bosa also spoke about the fact that he addresses the team before every game now, and how that started last year when Kyle Shanahan asked him to. And Nick Bosa still is relatively quiet. He's still very economical with his words, but he's called it a traumatic experience the first time that he speaks to the team. But he says that he has embraced the stress of it, and he's developed into a better public speaker. And what an alpha mindset there from Nick Bosa. He is embracing things that he's not comfortable with in order to grow as a leader. And now I think that the efficiency of his words is something that means that everything that he says carries a lot of weight. And I think that the 49ers locker room really respects that. I mean, the video with Bosa and Brock Purdy from the locker room the other day, which I'm sure you could find all over the internet, is probably one of the good examples of that. Fred Warner talked about the 49ers defense, which has really struggled. We know that run defense has been particularly bad this year, and we know that the Chiefs are more balanced than they have been in the past. Warner's quote today, I thought was extremely, extremely important. It's a theme. He said, "We have an opportunity to right that." He emphasized that the 49ers have an opportunity to correct what hasn't been a great defense. They've ranked in the 20s ever since Talanoa Hufanga went down. Obviously, Eric Armstead was gone for part of that time. The Chiefs are a different offense than last time. They're not nearly as explosive as they were in 2019, but they may be more balanced, especially with the way that Isaiah Pacheco is running the football. The 49ers aren't the same defense that they were in 2019. In many ways, and I'm about to write about this for The Athletic, so you can stay tuned for it, these two teams are inverses of what they were in that 2019 Super Bowl. The 49ers are the number one offense and the middling defense, and the Chiefs are the more balanced team, but not as great offensively as San Francisco. But Fred Warner emphasized that we have an opportunity to right the ship this time defensively. And if the 49ers do, well, they're going to be even bigger Super Bowl favorites than they are on paper right now, those 1-point favorites. So that is what the 49ers talked about today. Fred Warner also talked about the great bond between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and how the 49ers are going to have their hands full trying to defend that. That is the update here from the facility. Short injury report, practice happening. Oh my goodness, look, a rainbow behind me. You can see the rainbow right above the 49ers helmet. So that's a good way to finish this video. It is your Thursday update. I'm going to be back here at the facility tomorrow. So like, subscribe, do all that. We'll talk to you very soon.